She walked in wearing heels that cost less than a sandwich and a dress that cost her dignity. But she stood tall, head up, face blank, eyes unreadable. That's what got me. The eyes. They were familiar in a way I couldn't place at first, until it was too late. I'd hired her through a middleman named Vance. He operated out of a cigar bar in West Hollywood that smelled like desperation and imported smoke. I told him I wanted someone quiet, polite, and uncomplicated. No games, no mess. He delivered a girl named Jayla, 23, college dropout, bills to pay, mouth shut. She walked into my penthouse like it wasn't her first time in a place like that. Most of them either gawk or pretend they're not impressed. She did neither, just nodded at me, set her clutch down on the granite counter, and waited. I asked her how old she was. She said, old enough to make bad decisions. Cute line. Practiced. I poured us both a drink, bourbon for me, water for her. Another detail that didn't fit. Girls like her drink to blur the edges. This one was keeping things sharp. We talked for 5 minutes. About nothing. And the whole time, something in my gut started churning. Her posture. Her voice. The way she glanced at the art on my walls like she recognized it. Then I looked at her eyes again. Gray-green, like stormwater over moss. And it hit me. No, couldn't be. I walked out of the room. Told her to wait there. Went to my office. Pulled open the drawer I never opened. Inside, a photo. Graduation day, 2017. Me in a suit I hated, arm around a girl in a cap and gown who smiled like she hadn't learned disappointment yet. Her name was Caroline. My daughter. I came back out. She was looking out the window, hands folded, spine stiff. What's your real name? I asked. She turned around slow. Blinked. You already know. The glass in my hand didn't make it back to the counter. It exploded against the tile like a gunshot. She didn't flinch. We stood there, the two of us, 10 feet apart, and 20 years of silence deep. She hadn't seen me since she was 15. Her mom took her across the country after the divorce. I sent checks, birthday gifts, hollow apologies. She sent nothing back. And now she was standing in my home, sold by some slimeball broker into a world I'd spent my whole career pretending didn't exist in my orbit. How long? I asked. Long enough, she said. My voice dropped. Who put you in this? Her mouth flattened. Does it matter? It does to me. She didn't speak. I could see the hurt building behind the dam of her face. But it wasn't aimed at me. Not directly. Not yet. I reached for my phone. Dialed Vance. He answered on the second ring. Everything all right, Mr. Langston? No. You sent me someone you shouldn't have. A pause. She clean. She's my daughter. He exhaled so fast it whistled through the line. What the hell kind of operation are you running? I barked. Hey, I didn't know. She came with fake docs. Said her name was Jenna Lynn Caldwell. Background checked. Everything passed. You're done, Vance. You hear me? She's the one who asked for you. Personally. I froze. What? She said she wanted the high-end clients. Your name came up. Asked for it. I hung up. She was watching me now, her expression finally cracking. Anger slipped through. Disgust. And underneath that, something worse. Betrayal that didn't come from this moment, but from years of being left behind. You requested me? I said. I needed you to see what you built, she said. I didn't build this. She took a step forward. Didn't you? You paid for silence. For distance. For a life you never looked back on. I never stopped caring. You just stopped showing up. I let the words hang. There wasn't an answer clean enough to survive the truth. I'm getting you out of this, I said. Now. She laughed, short and bitter. It's not that simple. It is if I make it. That's when her face changed. Like she'd expected me to throw her out, or pretend it didn't happen. Not dive in. She swallowed hard. There's someone you need to meet. I narrowed my eyes. Who? She looked down, then back up. The man who sold me. And just like that, the fuse lit. The man's name was Reese Doyle. Ran a modeling agency out of a strip mall in Inglewood. Caroline gave me the address like she was handing me a scalpel. Sharp, specific, meant to cut. I told her to stay at the penthouse. She didn't argue. She just sat down on the couch like it was the last place she ever wanted to be again. My driver, Delaney, had the Escalade warmed up before I hit the garage. He didn't ask where we were going. He knew that look on my face. The one I wore back when I was flipping apartment towers out from under city councilmen and still making it to my daughter's ballet recitals. Before everything rotted. The agency was tucked between a vape shop and a payday loan storefront. A peeling sign above the door said, Iconic Faces Talent Group. I walked in without knocking. The girl at the front desk barely looked up. Walk-ins are by appointment. Not here for a shoot, I said. Where's Doyle? Her gum stopped mid-chew. Who's asking? I dropped a black Amex card on the desk. The kind of man who makes problems disappear. Or people. Her eyes tracked from the card to my face, then to the door behind her. She buzzed it open without another word. Reese Doyle looked like every bad decision in a sharkskin suit. Late 40s, dyed hair slicked back, gold chains peeking from an unbuttoned shirt. He was sitting on a white leather couch pretending to review headshots. I didn't wait for pleasantries. You met my daughter, I said. His eyes twitched. You'll have to be more specific. Caroline Langston. That made him sit up. Look, whatever she told you. She told me enough. He raised both hands like I'd pulled a gun. She came to us, man. Said she needed money. No ID, but she knew how to work. I just connected her to filth. She said she was over 18. Hell, she said she was 24. I got papers. You think a fake birthday makes this legal? He straightened. You think throwing money around makes it moral? Wrong move. I stepped in, grabbed the collar of his blazer, and slammed him against the glass case of trophy shots. Plastic frame shattered. Photos of other broken girls fluttered to the floor. I built empires, I hissed. From debt and drywall. From mergers nobody walked away from. And I will burn every cent I have if that's what it takes to erase you. He didn't blink, just wheezed out a cough and said, You're a day late, Langston. Someone else already owns her. My hand went cold. What did you say? Your daughter's got debts. Not to me. I just collected the down payment. Who? He laughed, even bleeding. I don't name names. That's why I still have kneecaps. I let him drop, reached into my coat, and pulled out a small brass business card. Not mine. Another man's. One who owed me favors from the time I buried his crypto losses behind a fake real estate fund in Aspen. Call this number in 10 minutes, I said. Ask for Ramsey. Tell him Langston says your building's about to catch fire. Then tell me what you really know. Doyle groaned and reached for the card. You rich boys always think fire solves everything. No, I said. I think heat makes rats crawl into the light. Back at the penthouse, Caroline was curled up under a blanket, scrolling something on her phone. She looked up when I walked in. I sat across from her. He said someone else owns your debt. She didn't respond. Her jaw tightened. Who? She hesitated. I don't know his real name. They called him Coach. Coach. She nodded slowly. He recruits. Girls mostly. Poses as a talent scout. Says he works for agencies in New York. Pays up front. Promises modeling contracts, acting gigs, influencer deals. Then it starts to shift. How? First it's headshots. Then it's private photo sets. Then he introduces you to the clients. Says they're producers, directors. All fake. But the money's real. You ever meet him? Twice. In a club in West LA. Dark, loud, cash in envelopes. Always wore sunglasses. And now, I haven't seen him in months. Just his messengers. I stood and walked to the window. The city stretched below us, glittering and stupid. Somewhere out there was a man who sold my daughter like she was a side hustle. I'll find him, I said. She looked at me. Then what? Then I end it. You can't just throw money at this. I won't. She stood too, suddenly. You don't get to fix me, Dad. This isn't about your guilt. It's about what he did. What they're still doing. I know. You sure? I turned. Because when I'm done, this whole industry's gonna wish they never touched you. She didn't smile, but she nodded. That night, I called in markers. Old friends from dark places. People who make the web shake when they move. I started with a name. Coach. One guy laughed. You know how many coaches are in this city? Too many, I said. But this one's hunting girls. That narrowed it. 2 hours later, I had a lead. A burner number used to book studio rentals in Echo Park under fake LLCs, connected to a warehouse with blacked-out windows and a private entrance. Security cameras that streamed nowhere public. Delaney and I rolled up at 11:42 p.m. The gate was locked. I had him pull around back. We broke in through a side panel, quiet as ghosts. Inside was a soundstage dressed to look like a Manhattan loft. Fake brick walls, fake ferns, fake promises. In the corner, a ring light still glowed. The air smelled like perfume and power cables. I found the server stack. Pulled the drives. Took photos of every ledger, every client log, every booking alias. Names, times, cash amounts, girls marked by initials. One folder said JLC Prime, Jayla, Langston, Caroline. I felt heat rise in my throat. Get it all, I told Delaney. Then I lit a match. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You poking in my pool, Langston? The voice asked. Must be Coach. He chuckled. You just cost me 6 figures. That was my studio. You owe my daughter her life. She gave it to me. I'm coming for you. You already missed. Click. I stared at the dead phone. He wasn't scared. Not yet. That would change. I couldn't sleep. Not after the call. Not after hearing his voice. Coach. Calm. Amused. Like this was a game, and he already knew where all the pieces were going to land. That smug confidence meant one thing. He wasn't operating alone. Men like him never are. By sunrise, I had a plan. Delaney brought the car around again, black Escalade humming like a threat. I told him we were heading to Hancock Park. That's where the trail led. Upscale neighborhood, private driveways, and a short list of people who thought NDAs were stronger than prison bars. The address came from the client ledger we pulled from the warehouse, hidden inside a dummy shell company called Crescendo Entertainment. The lease was under a different name, but the billing, that led to a lawyer I once beat in court. Philip Greer, a fixer, the kind of man who launders reputations for people who hurt for a living. Greer's office was on the 3rd floor of a high-rise in Beverly Hills, but I wasn't going to knock on his door. I had something better, his ex-paralegal, Tanya. I made her VP of compliance at one of my holding companies 3 years ago after she burned his house down metaphorically in a whistleblower case. She owed me, and Tanya always pays her debts. I called her from the car. Tell me what you know about Greer's off-books files. She didn't even pause. He keeps sensitive accounts under a VPN-stacked cloud server. Access code changes weekly, but he has a vault. Paper backups. Where? Behind the liquor cabinet. Office walls fake. You push the Macallan bottle, and it opens. What kind of security? He disables the alarm between 2 and 4 a.m. every night. Says it's for cleaning crew, but I think he sleeps there sometimes. Why? He's scared. Of who? That's the problem. I think it's you now. At 2:07 a.m., I was in Greer's office. No alarms. No motion sensors. He trusted the building's security. Idiot. Delaney kept watch outside the door. I moved fast. Macallan bottle pushed, wall clicked, and the panel swung open to reveal shelves of paper files, hard drives, and a safe the size of a dorm fridge. I cracked the safe with a brute force tool my tech guy had cooked up back in 2019, back when we were buying out shell companies before breakfast. Inside, documents, passports, ledgers, cash bundles. One file labeled F. Langston. I froze. My name. I opened it. Inside were photos. Surveillance. Me at restaurants. Me at fundraisers. Me with women I barely remembered. One of them had a red circle around her face. I stared. It was Caroline. No makeup. No lights. Just her walking down a sidewalk in jeans and a hoodie. The photo was time-stamped from 4 months ago, meaning they'd been watching her long before I knew anything. There was a note paper-clipped to the bottom. Client 9F requested familial angle. Confirm DNA match. Arrange accidental crossover. My throat went dry. They didn't just sell her. They targeted her. I stepped back and looked at the other files. They were organized by tier. Girls. Background checks. Family history. Blackmail potential. Clients. Preferences. Payment schedules. Coach wasn't just a pimp. He was an architect. And someone was paying to hurt my daughter because she was my daughter. This was revenge, not commerce. But revenge from who? I grabbed everything. All of it. Shoved it into a satchel. Then I lit a small magnesium flare and dropped it into the safe. Fireproof doesn't mean proof against military-grade heat. Delaney and I were gone before the building's alarms ever figured out we'd been there. Back at the penthouse, Caroline was awake. She didn't ask where I'd been, just looked at the satchel like she knew it was full of ghosts. I dumped it on the coffee table. Her eyes scanned the papers. Is this? They were watching you. Long before you met Doyle. She picked up the photo of herself. This is my college street. Someone paid extra to cross our paths. On purpose. Her mouth twisted. Sick bastards. Not just sick. Strategic. She kept flipping through the files. Her fingers stopped on one. Her face changed. "This guy," she said, pulling out a glossy headshot. "He was at the club, always hanging around. Offered me a modeling gig in New York." "Name?" She looked at the back. "Arlen Brax." I knew that name. Media investor. Tech darling. Popped up on 3 of my deals in the last 5 years. Quiet buyer. Smart money. Always played small, but always showed up at the table. And once, he tried to buy into my flagship property in Seattle. I outbid him. Publicly. Brutally. Cost him prestige. Cost him momentum. I'd thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. The next day, I flew to San Francisco. Brax had a condo downtown and an office in a converted warehouse. I took the direct route, walked into his building with a suit sharp enough to cut and a look that didn't ask for permission. His receptionist tried to stall me. "He's not available." "He is now." I pushed past her. Brax was in his office, sipping espresso and pretending he didn't fund human trafficking networks. His hair was slicked back, his smile tighter than his shirt collar. Well, he said, not surprised. "Langston, let's skip the small talk," I said, dropping the photo of Caroline on his desk. He barely glanced at it. "Pretty girl. She's my daughter." He arched a brow. "I know." I didn't expect him to admit it. That's what rattled me. "You set her up." "No," he said. "I set you up." He leaned back, smug. "You took everything from me. Reputation. Backers. I lost a board seat because of you." "So you hurt my kid?" He shrugged. "I paid a broker for a storyline. A little theater. A girl who could get close to you. Ruin your perfect little shell. Make the board wonder about your stability. You tried to ruin me with my own blood." She didn't have to take the job. I moved fast. Faster than he expected. Grabbed his espresso and poured it onto his keyboard. Sparks flew. He flinched back. "You're going to confess," I said. "Everything. On camera." He laughed. "Or what? You'll kill me?" "No," I said. "You'll just disappear. Quietly. And painfully. The world won't even notice you're gone. You're a footnote with a trust fund." His smile faltered. Then the door opened. 2 security guards stepped in. I turned to face them. "You know who I am?" They didn't move. Brax waved them off. "Let him go." "Smart," I said. "Next time, you won't see me coming." I left without looking back. But I wasn't done. I never am. Back in L.A., I met with a reporter I trusted. Old school. Hungry. Disillusioned with soft stories and PR filters. I gave her everything. The files. The client logs. The recordings. Caroline's statement. Told her to run it wide and dirty. No edits. No mercy. Then I made 2 more calls. One to the IRS. One to the state AG's office. Both anonymous. Both full of tips about Crescendo, Brax's shell companies, and Coach's little empire. The match was lit. Now I just had to watch the fire spread. 2 days after the files hit the press, everything exploded. Coach's network was plastered across every headline that didn't have a war in it. The Crescendo pipeline, they called it. A ring of false modeling contracts, ghost shell companies, and VIP clients with preferences no one could stomach in daylight. Names leaked. Half of them were men I'd shaken hands with at fundraisers. The other half were ghosts, rich shadows with offshore accounts and real estate portfolios that didn't show up on any MLS. But not Brax. His name was missing. The coward had insulated himself. I'd given the reporter everything, but he'd used proxies, cutouts, lawyers. Even his payment trails were layered with charities and nonprofit initiatives. The kind of whitewashing only sick money can afford. He wasn't bleeding yet, just hiding. But Coach ran out of luck. He got picked up in Barstow trying to cross into Nevada with a duffel bag and a burner phone. No ID. No story. Just a bruised ego and a mouth that stayed shut through 3 days of questioning. That meant one thing. He was still protected. Someone was still paying him to keep his secrets. That's when I knew I had to get personal. Delaney drove me out to Barstow. 3 hours in silence, except for the soft hum of the tires and the occasional update from the news station. They had Coach in the county holding facility. Not indicted yet, just detained pending further investigation. Which meant someone upstairs didn't want a trial. They wanted delay. Delay buys silence. I had a contact inside. Retired detective named Harris. Old school LAPD, the kind who believed in leverage more than justice. We'd done each other favors over the years, mine bigger than his. He got me 20 minutes alone with Coach. No cameras. No audio. Just a concrete room and a single table. Coach looked like hell. Black eye, split lip, orange jumpsuit hanging off his frame like it belonged to someone else. He looked up when I walked in. "Langston," he said, "was wondering when you'd show." I didn't sit. Just stood there, hands in my coat pockets, staring. "I should let you rot," I said. "You already lit the fire." "Not hot enough." He gave a crooked grin. "I didn't touch her." "Doesn't matter. You sold her." "She sold herself. All I did was open the door." I stepped forward, quiet. "She's my daughter. She's one of hundreds. No. She's the end of this." He leaned back. "You gonna kill me?" "No. I'm going to make sure no one pays to keep your mouth shut." "Not anymore." That got his attention. He looked up sharp, grin gone. "Cut me a deal," he said. "I give you Brax, you make it go away." "No deals. Just names." He hesitated. "I give you Brax, you walk." "No. But your life gets longer. Maybe even cleaner. You die in obscurity instead of as a headline." He waited. Then he leaned in. "Brax didn't just pay me. He built the network." I narrowed my eyes. "He started this?" Coach nodded. 10 years ago, after a party in Lisbon. Saw a girl, runaway, desperate. Said it was cleaner to cure it than to buy. I felt bile rise. So he created a catalog. Started small. Girls from foster systems. Then college dropouts. Then influencers in debt. He never touched them, not directly. But every face, every contract, he picked them. And Caroline? His idea. Said your name was too clean. Too perfect. Wanted to market. I stayed silent. He paid extra to keep her in the pipeline. Even when she tried to leave. That was the line. She tried to leave? Coach nodded. After the second job. Said it wasn't what she thought. I told her no one leaves without paying back the startup costs. You threatened her. Everyone gets the same contract. Debt goes up if you walk. I pulled out a recorder. Placed it on the table. He looked at it. Are you ready to talk? He nodded once. Roll it. The confession took 11 minutes. Names. Dates. Bank accounts. Cities. Drop locations. A list of brokers, scouts, and photographers that read like a who's who of every fake casting call on the West Coast. I left the recorder with Harris. Told him to hand it straight to the state AG. No press. No middlemen. Just law. And then I made my final call. To Brax. I used a number I knew he'd recognize. The one tied to my family trust. The one I never used for business. He answered on the second ring. You're persistent, he said. I'm patient, I replied. You want money? Name your price. I want you in a cell. You'll never get it. I already have your confession. A pause. You're bluffing. Coach rolled. Gave you up. His voice went colder. You made a mistake, Langston. No, you did. Then I hung up. I flew to New York that night. Brax had one final asset, an unlisted estate upstate. 30 acres, private airstrip, guards that didn't wear badges. It wasn't listed in any of the files. But I found it through a detail Coach slipped during the confession. Brax likes to watch from the lodge. That was enough. I got there just after midnight. Hired a pilot. Landed silent. I wasn't alone. Delaney came. So did Harris. Old school justice doesn't wait for indictments. We breached the lodge from 3 sides. No cameras. No alarms. Just pine trees and quiet. Inside, we found 4 men. All ex-military. Paid well. Armed. But they weren't ready for us. 2 down fast. 1 ran. The 4th reached for a gun and found my knee in his chest. Then we found Brax. In the study. Whiskey in hand. Fireplace roaring. Like he'd been expecting company. You came all this way, he said. You don't get to hide behind silence anymore. He raised his glass. Justice is for the poor, Langston. You know that. Not tonight. I tossed him a USB drive. He caught it. Looked confused. Coach's confession, I said. Everything. Already delivered. But I thought you deserved a copy. His face didn't change. But his hands tightened. You're not going to kill me, he said. No. Then what? You're going to live with this. With every eye that turns away. Every deal that dries up. Every door that locks before you get there. He smiled weakly. I'll rebuild. No. You won't. I pulled out my phone. Showed him the live stream. Every network. Every channel. Every outlet. His face. His voice. Coach's confession. You're done, I said. He dropped the glass. It shattered. I turned and left. Outside, the air was cold. But I felt clean. By morning, Brax's empire was ash. The confession hit every network like a bomb in a ballroom. Coach's voice, grainy and low, recited crimes like grocery lists, names of clients, businesses, shell funds. Reporters called it the biggest exposure of high-class trafficking in a decade. One anchor cried on air. The public lost its mind. Senators demanded hearings. Investors pulled out of companies they couldn't pronounce yesterday. Families of victims flooded the news cycle with stories that matched the file folders I'd left behind. Caroline didn't watch it. She stayed in the guest suite of my penthouse with the curtains drawn and her phone off. She wasn't hiding. She was processing. I let her be. This wasn't her fight anymore. It was mine. And I wasn't done. I flew to D.C. that week. Quietly. No press. No tail. I had one meeting scheduled. Michael Delacroix, Deputy Director of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. We'd crossed paths once at a G20 dinner. I remembered his handshake. Soft, but with purpose. Like a man who didn't build walls, just opened the right doors. He greeted me in a corner booth of a steakhouse full of power suits and mid-rare ribeyes. "Langston," he said, sliding into the seat. "Was wondering when you'd come knocking. You've seen the footage?" "Twice. Once as a citizen, once as a federal. Then you know what I want." He picked up his knife. "You want Brax in chains." "No," I said. "I want everyone who paid into that pipeline. The whole chain. No names buried under money." He nodded. "You'll get headlines. I want indictments." His fork paused midair. "There's a difference." I leaned in. "Not to me." He set the utensils down. "You have more. Financials. Offshore trails. Real estate flip logs. Passports. Private flights." He smiled. "I thought you might." I handed him a drive. "No media. No delay. You move first." He nodded once. "It starts tonight." And it did. That evening, 11 simultaneous raids hit 3 states. Federal agents pulled lawyers from their beds, froze assets mid-wire, cracked safes that smelled like cologne and fear. 24 people arrested. 5 of them household names. One of them, Greer, the fixer. I watched it all from my living room. Jazz low, scotch untouched. Caroline came in around midnight. She sat beside me, quiet, then asked, "How far are you going to take this?" I looked at her. "As far as I have to." She nodded. "Good." But one piece didn't fit. The client 9F. The one who paid extra for her. Who requested the familial match. Coach had said Brax ordered it. But in the files, the payment didn't come from him. It came from someone else. Someone closer. That bothered me. I went back to the paper logs. Cross-checked payment sources. The 9F account wasn't linked to Brax's companies. It was personal and encrypted, but I recognized the shell address. It matched a fund I'd set up 10 years ago. A private trust. For family use only. I felt the chill run down my spine. There were only 3 people who had ever had access to it. Me, my late wife, and my son. I picked up the phone. Called my bank. Pull all access logs for the Langston Domestic Trust, Tier C. Last 12 months. The voice on the other end hesitated. "Sir, there was a withdrawal. When? 6 months ago. Wire transfer. Offshore. Authorization. Secondary trustee credentials. Name." Another pause. "West Langston." I hung up. Sat still. "Weston. My son. My only son." I didn't go home. I drove straight to his house. 3 stories of smug ambition in Pacific Palisades. All stone and glass and ocean views. His name was on the mailbox. His wife's Tesla was parked out front. His kids' bikes leaned against the garage. I rang the bell. He opened the door in sweats and a Patagonia pullover, like he hadn't just detonated his sister's life from a leather office chair. "Dad," he said, blinking. "What's wrong?" I stepped inside. "I know it was you." He flinched. Just a fraction. But it was enough. "Dad, you accessed the trust. Funded the contract. Paid to have Caroline targeted." He shut the door behind me slowly. Then he dropped the act. "It wasn't like that." "No? Then tell me what it was." He sighed, looked away. "She was a disaster," he said. "Always blaming everyone else. Dropping out. Burning money. Getting in trouble." I stared. "You thought this would teach her?" He didn't answer. "You thought selling her would fix her?" "I didn't sell her," he snapped. "I just gave her a push." "A push into what? A pipeline of rape and blackmail?" He clenched his jaw. "She was going to destroy your legacy," he said. "Everything you built. Your name, your holdings, your standing." "My daughter," I cut in. "She's my daughter." He shook his head. "You never saw it. You always let her slide." You gave her everything and made me earn it. She was going to ruin you, and I protected you. I took a step forward. You did this for me. He nodded. No, I said, quiet. You did it for you. Because you couldn't stand not being the favorite. Because you couldn't take that I forgave her for leaving school, but not you for failing up. She would have brought you down. She was the only one who didn't ask me for anything. His face twisted. You were supposed to trust me, he said. I stared into him. I did. And you used that trust to destroy your sister. I saved you. You ended yourself. Then I walked out and left him standing there in his $1,000,000 coffin of self-importance. Back home, I told Caroline. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat, then said, I always knew. I looked at her. He was too helpful, too smooth. He offered to co-sign my lease when I dropped out. Said he could fix things with you. Like he already knew I'd be broken. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd do exactly what you're doing now. And what's that? She turned to me, burning everything down. The morning after Caroline learned the truth, she made eggs. Simple, scrambled, no toast. Just like her mother used to. She slid the plate across the counter toward me. No eye contact. No small talk. Just quiet between the clinks of fork against porcelain. He really said he was protecting you? She asked. He believed it. She took a bite. Chewed slow. You going to press charges? I don't need a court to cut him off. She nodded. So that's it. No, I said. That's just the floor. The ceiling's higher. Because I wasn't after Weston's money. I'd given him that. What I wanted now was his world. His company. His contacts. His shiny, brittle life built on networking events and fourth-hand favors. The corporate playground he'd clawed into with my name on his resume and my cash in his war chest. I was going to salt the earth. But I'd do it clean. Quiet. The way legacy men fall best. By reputation, not bullets. Step 1 was the shareholders. Weston's logistics firm was publicly traded but fragile, propped up by glossy forecasts and bloated valuations. I knew the board chair. Played poker with him in Tahoe 2 summers ago. The man was smarter than Weston and twice as paranoid. I called him from the terrace. Tomas, I said. You seen the news? Which part? Your CEO's name hasn't hit it. Yet. A pause. Why would it? Because he financed a trafficking contract using our family trust. I heard the breath leave him. And I have the receipts. Jesus, Langston. I'm not calling for drama. I'm calling to save your stock. What do you want? An emergency board session. Today. You put his resignation on the table. Or I put his name on a subpoena. Is it that bad? Worse. He didn't argue. Just asked for the address to send the driver. By 5 p.m., Weston was out. Resigned for health reasons, the statement read. Effective immediately. No severance. No bonus. Stock options frozen pending internal audit. He went from CEO to ghost in 4 hours. I didn't call to gloat. I let the silence speak. But the fallout didn't stop there. His wife filed for separation. His house went up for sale. The group text stopped responding. And yet, it wasn't enough. Because I knew Weston. Pride would keep him from disappearing. He'd come back eventually. Try to rebuild. Reinvent. Call it a misunderstanding. That's when I made the final move. The trust. I had my legal team dissolve it. Liquidate everything. Redirect the remaining assets, millions, into a private fund under Caroline's name. Controlled by her. Unbreakable. Untraceable. Weston had always treated family as inheritance. So I made sure he inherited nothing. When the paperwork cleared, I called him. He answered on the second ring. His voice was raw. Dad, it's done. He didn't ask what. He knew. I was your son. No, I said. You were your own worst enemy. You're cutting me off. You did that yourself. I'm just acknowledging it. He didn't beg. That almost made it worse. Goodbye, Weston. I hung up before he could. The line stayed dead. So did our bond. Caroline didn't smile when I told her. She just leaned back on the couch and whispered, Thank you. I nodded. She picked at the corner of a throw pillow. Now what? You heal. And you? I watch. Watch what? The world. Because now that the fire had cleared, I could see the structures still standing. The money men. The hidden ones. The clients who never got named. Brax wasn't alone. Coach wasn't the end. The networks were still out there, cleaner, deeper, protected by smarter cowards. I had the files. And now I had time. But that's for another chapter. Tonight, Caroline and I just sat. Not as strangers. Not as casualties. But as survivors. And somewhere below us, the city pulsed. Wounded, but wide awake. I told Caroline to take a break. She left the city the next day, headed for a quiet Airbnb in Big Sur with a stack of books and no reception. No cameras. No past. Just cliffs and cold wind and space to breathe. I told her I'd handle the rest. She didn't ask what the rest meant. Smart girl. Brax was still breathing. Still rich. Still free. But he was bleeding now, slow and public. Sponsors pulled out. 2 investment funds backed away. His newest app, a mental wellness platform, of all things, had its launch canceled after someone anonymously leaked screenshots of Brax joking about trauma as a subscription model. That someone was me. But none of it stuck hard enough. He'd built too many layers. Hid too well. The charges fizzled out. Coach's confession wasn't enough for extradition, and Brax's name never landed in the criminal filings. He issued a statement about being saddened by recent events and committed to the protection of vulnerable populations. Disgusting, but not unexpected. I had one last play. I needed a ghost. A man who operated beneath the radar, in places where influence didn't matter, only leverage. My kind of man. His name was Booker. Retired intelligence, half legit, half ghost. We'd met 15 years ago over a silent auction item in Aspen, a World War II encryption device he beat me for. He sent me a note afterward. Let me know if you ever need something decrypted. Or someone. I kept that card in my safe. Now I called it. The meeting happened in a dive bar in Culver City that smelled like bleach and wet wood. He wore a cheap jacket and expensive silence. You looking for intel or pressure? He asked, sipping club soda. Both. He nodded once. Who? I slid him a photo of Brax. He didn't blink. Just pulled out a tablet. Digital footprints clean, he muttered. He's been laundering his life for years. Then find a wrinkle. Booker looked at me. You sure you want to open this box? I'm past boxes. He nodded. Give me 48. 43 hours later, he called. I found a leak, he said. Where? Not in Brax. In the guy who hides Brax. Elaborate. Man named Cyrus Morrow. Swiss fixer. Handles reputation management for the worst people you've never heard of. Brax is on his premium client list. And Morrow's brother is dying. Rare cancer. Hospital in Geneva. Expensive treatment. Paid for in crypto. From an account that doesn't match Brax's normal flow. So Brax bought silence. More like rented it. But here's the wrinkle. Tell me. Morrow's daughter? College junior. NYU. Activist type. Big on human rights. Let me guess. She doesn't know where daddy's money comes from. Booker chuckled. Not yet. It was a simple package. A manila envelope. Inside, screenshots of Brax's communications. Crypto transfers. Shell companies. Dates and times. One note in Brax's handwriting. Make sure the girl doesn't get cold feet again. It all traced back to Morrow, the man who covered it all. I had it couriered to his daughter's dorm. No return address. No instructions. Just facts. The reaction came fast. 3 days later, Morrow's daughter posted an open letter online. Named her father. Named Brax. Attached the documents. Called it a confession on behalf of those who chose silence. The internet did the rest. And this time, Brax couldn't hide. Not behind money. Not behind Morrow. Not behind polished PR. He issued a statement. Then went dark. A week later, the SEC froze 3 of his accounts. The EU issued a warrant. Switzerland began auditing its digital banking corridors. And then, Brax vanished. No press conference. No goodbye. No public meltdown. Just gone. Booker called me a few days later. Mission accomplished, he said. Where is he? Private flight. Brazil. Might try to make it to Dubai. Will they hold him? Not for long. But that's not the point. No. The point is, he's radioactive now. He's poison. No one will touch him. Even the snakes are scared. Good. Booker paused. You going to chase him? No, I said. He's already lost everything that mattered. Except his pulse. That's not my job. Booker grunted. Most people want death. Most people aren't me. He didn't argue. Just said, call if you need the lights off again. That night, I poured myself a drink. The good bourbon. I sat on the terrace and looked out over the city. L.A. always hums. Always flickers. But tonight, it felt quieter. Caroline texted me from Big Sur. Still breathing. Reading. Ocean looks pissed off. I love it. I smiled. Typed back. Same here. minus the ocean. She sent a photo. Wind in her hair. Eyes clear. Skin healing. A face that didn't carry weight it never asked for. Then another text. I'm proud of you, Dad. I stared at it a long time. Then I saved it. Screenshotted it. Backed it up. Not because I needed proof, but because some words matter more than blood. 2 weeks passed. Caroline stayed up north, renting small cabins and sending me photos of pine trees and quiet streams. No headlines. No talk of Brax. Just hikes and handwritten journal entries and the slow climb back to herself. Me? I stayed in the city. Let the smoke clear. Let the scavengers try to rebuild their reputations on the ash. That's the thing about money. It doesn't know how to die. It just changes shape, slips through cracks, reforms like oil slicks in a new tank. But people don't bounce like money. Especially not the ones who came out of this burned. Some of the girls Coach trafficked had families. Some had none. A few reached out, saw my name in the press, and thought maybe I was a different kind of billionaire. One girl said, "You broke the cycle." I told her I didn't. I just shoved a stick in the wheel until the whole damn bike flipped. She laughed. I didn't. Caroline called every few days. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just sat on the line in silence, sharing the kind that used to be distance, but now felt like recovery. She never asked for anything. Never hinted at what came next. I think she was waiting to see if I'd slip back into the man who ignored her for a decade. I didn't. Because I couldn't. Weston had vanished from the media. The firm buried his name. His lawyer issued a vague denial, claiming irreconcilable family tension. No mention of Caroline. No mention of the trust. No questions answered. He dropped off socials. Probably hid somewhere warm and discreet. Maybe Thailand. Maybe Montana. I didn't care. He'd already sentenced himself to a life of pretending nothing happened. That's its own kind of cell. The only thing I was watching now was the pipeline. Coach's arrest turned a few brokers. The federal hearings rattled some low-level scouts. But the real machinery, the old money facilitators, the shell companies, the banks that looked the other way, they all waited it out. That's what these people do. They don't fight. They survive. Like rats with portfolios. So I started building something. Quiet. Off-grid. It started with a simple rule. Follow the money, not the monster. I brought in 2 people. Mara, a forensic accountant who once reverse-engineered a Ponzi scheme for fun, and Pete, an ex-IRS analyst who hated his former bosses more than any crook he ever audited. Both owed me favors. Both were tired of paperwork with no punch. I gave them one job. Track every dollar that ever touched Crescendo or Brax's entities. Not just the big wires, but the soft ones, the consulting fees, the board stipends, the gifts to nonprofits that somehow all landed at the same P.O. boxes in Delaware. The more they dug, the weirder it got. There were offshore firms paying American PR companies to clean up Google results for modeling scams. There were nonprofit scholarships given to at-risk girls that somehow fed straight into travel agencies with private jet invoices. There were shell companies with 1 employee, and that employee was also listed as a wellness coach on 5 separate influencer contracts. It wasn't a network. It was a damn ecosystem. And Brax was just a leaf. One day, Mara brought me a folder. She didn't say anything, just dropped it on my desk and waited. Inside, a list of property owners, condo towers, event venues, small hotels, all of them bought in the last 5 years. All of them used, at least once, for photo shoots or training sessions under Crescendo. Most had been resold already, except one, a compound in rural Nevada, 30 miles outside Henderson. Still active, still held under a deep LLC tied to an international charity. I looked at Mara. What's the charity? She grimaced. Children's Opportunity Initiative. Based in Switzerland. Swiss again, I muttered. Fake, she said. Their board is 3 people. 2 are dead. 1 is a ghost. I booked a flight. Didn't tell Caroline. Some things you don't warn people about. You just finish. Delaney drove. The Nevada road stretched out like a bad decision, flat, dusty, empty for miles. The kind of place no one visits without a purpose. The kind of place you don't escape unless someone lets you. We stopped 2 miles out. Binoculars showed the compound. 6 buildings. 1 large center structure for dorm-style wings, 1 detached garage. Fence topped with barbed wire. Security cameras. No signage. No kids. Just silence. I didn't bring a gun. Didn't need one. I brought a drone. Custom. No audio. Thermal cam. We flew it low, past the perimeter, over the roofs, into the cracks. Inside, we saw 2 men. Suits. Armed. 3 girls. Teenagers. 1 sleeping. 1 pacing. 1 crying. No smiles. No screens. No signs of fun. This wasn't rehab. It was containment. I looked at Delaney. He nodded. I placed a call to a number I'd only used once. Federal side. Quiet task force. The kind of unit that gets built during elections and forgotten after. But their mandate was clean. Fight trafficking where states won't. They picked up on the first ring. This is Langston, I said. I've got a location. Real-time feed. 3 miners. Armed security. Shell company owners. Coordinates, the voice asked. I gave them. Hold position, they said. We're 30 minutes out. I didn't wait. I walked up the road. The guard at the gate looked at me like I was the wrong package at the wrong address. Private property, he said. I kept walking. I said stop. I did. Then I smiled. You ever hear of Brax? I asked. He blinked. Confused. You will, I said. Then I held up my phone. Streaming everything. His face. The gate. The compound. You're live, I said. Keep talking. He reached for his belt. Then stopped. Sirens in the distance. He heard them too. He backed up. I stood still. Black SUVs crested the hill. Dust everywhere. Then tires on gravel. Then shouting. The feds moved fast. Within 5 minutes, the gate was open. Guards cuffed. Girls recovered. Cameras yanked. I walked away before the debrief. Didn't need to be a hero. Just needed the job done. Caroline called me later that night. You okay? She asked. Yeah. You sound tired. Getting there. She paused. Did you find more? Enough. You ending it? Not yet, I said. She didn't ask what that meant. Just said, come visit. I told her I would. Soon. Then we said goodnight. She didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. She was breathing free air. And that was enough. For now. The raid on the Nevada compound made headlines, but not like Brax. It wasn't flashy. No celebrities. No major city to anchor the narrative. Just 3 scared girls, 2 security guards who lawyered up instantly, and a tangled mess of shell companies that no reporter could follow past the first offshore account. But I followed. The compound was owned by a holding firm registered in Panama. That firm was owned by a Dutch real estate fund. The Dutch fund, funded by a series of philanthropic investments from a larger parent group based out of, you guessed it, Zurich. Same playbook, different pages. What I needed now was someone inside that network. Someone who wasn't a coward or a predator. Someone who'd worked the numbers but hadn't crossed the line into exploitation. Enter Deidre Vale. Swiss-born, Harvard-trained, mid-30s, once called the queen of quiet capital. She specialized in legal laundering, helping old money transition into modern influence without tripping flags. She never worked with Brax directly, but her name was adjacent in 2 deals Mara flagged, both tied to the crescendo web. The thing about people like Deidre? They don't scare. They calculate. So I didn't threaten. I offered her something she couldn't ignore: control. We met in a private lounge at LAX, 2 days after the compound raid. I didn't tell her what I was bringing. I just said it was profitable and personal. She wore black. No jewelry. Just sharp eyes and a pen that cost more than most cars. She sat across from me and said, "Make it quick." So I did. I slid her a folder. Real estate, media assets, closed shell firms. I told her how I'd pulled them apart. Then I told her why. Your name showed up on the edge of it, I said. She didn't blink. So did a lot of people. Most of them are about to lose their careers. And you want me to help? No, I said. I want you to replace them. That got her attention. You want to start your own operation? I want to build a firewall, I said. A legitimate empire. Clean money. Ethical investment. Buy up the dirty channels and close them. Own the infrastructure. No more middlemen hiding girls behind tax codes. She stared at me, then leaned forward. You're talking about burning the whole underground economy and rebuilding it in the open. Not rebuilding, I said. Reclaiming. And I run it. With full control. She smiled. Just a flicker. What's your stake? None, I said. I've taken enough. She raised an eyebrow. You don't strike me as selfless. I'm not. But I've seen what happens when the wrong people keep winning. Deidre sat back. Then she said, you'll need political cover. And you'll need credibility. I'll give you both. How? I handed her a thumb drive. Names, I said. Unindicted co-conspirators. Client lists. Untouched accounts. You use them, trade them, burn them, but only once the machine's up and running. She pocketed the drive. Langston, she said, you just declared war on $1 trillion industry. I'm already fighting it. She stood. I'm in. The infrastructure move took 3 weeks. Deidre moved fast. She used her contacts to buy out small data firms, modeling platforms, and lifestyle agencies, all of them tied to influencer contracts and sketchy talent pipelines. She scrubbed them, paid severance, rebuilt the org charts with vetted HR teams and oversight boards. And then she launched a new parent brand, Orion Projects. Clean, global, unshakable. Investors followed. So did media. She ran public panels on digital exploitation, private summits with fund managers, and behind-the-scenes meetings with law enforcement. For every dirty dollar she took out of circulation, she created 5 clean ones to replace it. She didn't just kill the system. She absorbed it. I stayed in the shadows. Didn't want the spotlight. Didn't need the credit. But Caroline knew. She sent me a text that said, simply, I see what you're doing. Keep going. So I did. The final piece came from Coach. He'd been sentenced to 20 years with no parole. But through a legal loophole, one he probably paid to have built, he got a chance to testify before a congressional subcommittee on trafficking. I made sure that happened. Because I knew he wouldn't just incriminate more names. He'd make noise. And noise attracts cameras. Coach told them everything. Not just about Brax. About the buyers. The cities. The platforms. The recruitment tournaments run out of fake self-help seminars. The private parties with secret auctions. He didn't cry. Didn't ask for mercy. Just sat there and described hell like a man reading a script. The public went feral. Suddenly, every governor had a task force. Every celebrity made a statement. Every social media platform scrambled to update their moderation policies. But most of all, investors panicked. And when money panics, it runs. Deidre caught it mid-fall. Orion became the lighthouse. And I finally stopped moving. One afternoon, Caroline came home. No fanfare. No bags. Just walked through the door like she hadn't been gone for 3 months. I was at the window, reading a market brief. She said, "You look tired." I said, "I am." She poured us both coffee. We sat in silence. Then she asked, "Is it over?" I shook my head. "No. But it's safer?" I nodded. She looked around. "This place feels different." "It is." She sipped the coffee. "You didn't have to do all of it." "I know. But you did." I couldn't let it stand. She smiled. Mom would have been proud. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Because that, finally, was enough. 3 months later, the world had moved on. The headlines shifted. New scandals took over. Politicians changed focus. The Brack story was now a documentary in post-production and a podcast with too many ads. The media always forgets. But the people who matter, they remember. Orion Projects went global. Deidre ran it like a Fortune 50 firm with the aggression of a Wall Street pirate and the spine of a prosecutor. Every time a new trafficking channel surfaced, she moved to absorb it, quarantine it, shut it down. She made survivors stakeholders, put former victims in positions of oversight, hired ex-feds to run compliance and watchdogs to monitor the watchdogs. People tried to dig up dirt on her. They found nothing. Because for once, there was nothing. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was real. And that's more than most people ever get. As for Weston, I never heard from him again. I got word he tried to start a venture fund in Singapore. Didn't take. Word got out. Investors ghosted. Partners bailed. Eventually, he disappeared. No statements. No apologies. Just silence. Let him rot in it. Coach died in prison. Heart attack in the yard. No one cried. His body was claimed by no one. Cremated and logged as unidentified family preference. I told the warden not to notify me again. Brax? Rumors put him in Morocco. Plastic surgery. New name. But power? Gone. He couldn't buy silence anymore. Couldn't buy trust. And men like Brax, they don't survive on their own. They survive on being useful. He wasn't useful anymore. Just a cautionary tale whispered at parties where the rich pretend they're innocent. Let him stay scared. It's better than a cage. Caroline didn't return to her old life. She started a new one. Used the trust one gave her to fund programs for recovering victims, therapy, housing, education. Quiet work. No press. She didn't want her name on anything. I just want to make a dent, she told me once. You already have, I said. We saw each other every week now. Dinner, walks, sometimes just coffee. She was learning to live forward, not just survive backward. The nightmares were less frequent. The silence was softer. The hurt, still there, but it didn't own her anymore. That mattered. One night, I sat on the balcony. Same chair, same view, but everything felt different. Cleaner. The scotch tasted sharper. The city lights didn't hum so loud. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I didn't see deals. Didn't see enemies. Didn't see the girl walking into that penthouse for the first time, with no idea what storm she'd walked into. I saw Caroline, laughing, alive, unafraid. That's when I knew it was over. Not the world, not the darkness, but the war I started. I'd taken the hit, delivered the blows, lost blood, drew more. And now I got to walk away standing. Not because I was unscathed, but because I'd finally earned the right to rest.